almost always late to class. If I'm on time, you should probably be worried. And somehow I made it on time today. I'm actually going to stay with a friend in Little Rock tonight, and so I had to pack all of my stuff. And just in case, you never know what the weather's going to do, in case we get hit by a tornado, I decided to bring it all in with me. We may not know what we need. I brought a light in case our power goes out, so we have a handy little light. Anyway, you just never know what you're going to need, so it's always better to pack a lot so you have it. Just
I thought you were a spontaneous individual.
I'm very spontaneous, but I like to be prepared and have my stuff. And the sad thing about this is this morning is even for just a 1 or 2 night stay, generally this is about what I packed, if not a little more. I have a big shoe box with all my shoes, and I just worry about what I may or may not need. Okay, so hopefully you guys have read the chapter, but for those of you who haven't, we're going to play Name That Burden. So I'm going to give you the clues, and you guys are going to tell me what you think it is. It afflicts 70 million Americans, faulted for 38,000 deaths per year.
Weary.
Weary?
I don't know what chapter we're on.
We are on chapter, I have no idea, page 99. Chapter.
Here, Renee.
Okay, 64% of teens blame it for poor school performance. Those between the ages of 30 and 40 suffer the most severe cases. 50% of those over age 65 likely fall victim to it. A few of the possible treatments are mouth guards, herbal teas, over-the-counter, and prescription medicines.
Sleep grinding.
Who said sleep? Who said sleep? Yes, sleep. Insomnia. According to the CDC, 1 in 3 adults don't get enough sleep. How many hours of sleep do you think you get each night?
7.
7?
About 4.
6 and a half.
4 hours?
Oh.
Wow. Does anybody get less than 4? At least
sleeping medicine.
At least 8? Anybody get at least 8 hours per night? Oh my goodness. Okay. What are some of the causes of not getting enough sleep?
Babies.
Babies is a good one. That makes sense.
Right mattress.
Not the right mattress.
Storm.
Storms.
They're worried.
Noise in the house.
Snoring.
Snoring.
As they snore, and there's times he has woken me up in the middle of the night and startled me because he snores so loud. I have a lovely dog.
You don't snore
That's
anymore.
like Vaughn.
Okay, so according to the National Sleep Foundation, those between the ages of 18 and 64 years old, did I miss anybody in that category? Over 64? Okay, so you should probably get a little more sleep than the rest of us. But it's 7 to 9 hours per night is the recommended amount of sleep for 18 to 64 years old. The trouble with sleep. I have actually had trouble with sleeping the past 8 to 10 years or so. And I had initially started a sleep study several years ago, and then my insurance was canceled. So I got partway through the study, and I couldn't finish it. They're pretty expensive to get done. So I wasn't able to do that. I do struggle with OCD, PTSD, high-functioning anxiety disorder, and memory loss. And so all of those can affect my sleep habits. I deal with a lot of different anxiety issues. My brain just doesn't want to shut down. I worry about everything, the things that I didn't get done, what I have to do tomorrow, and the next day, and the next week, unfinished housework. I go to sleep better when my house is clean. I rest better, I work better in a room that's done. In the kitchen, I hate to cook or prepare a meal if everything's kind of not in its place, and it's really a problem for me. A lot of people say they wish they had OCD, but in reality, it's a curse. It not only do I make myself miserable with all this, but I learned I make my family miserable too. A while back, AJ, probably 2 years ago, I'd asked him to do something, and I was nitpicking about it. He said, "Mom, why does everything have to be perfect for you?" And I said, "It doesn't." And I thought about it, and I realized it really does. And so I had to learn to tone it down and try to think things through and curb my OCD problems where it didn't affect my family because I was hurting them also. I worry about who I have to see, what lines I have to memorize, what if my prayers don't work, what if I fail God, what if I fail my family, how are we going to pay that bill? And I think these are all a lot of things that we all struggle with. I've tried exercise, herbal teas, sleep meditations and sounds, different things. Like I have one that was recommended to me, and it just goes through this series of things of helping you drift off to sleep. And the problem is, a lot of times these things will help me go to sleep, but I still wake up feeling tired. Even though my body goes to sleep, my mind does not shut off, and I wake up worried, thinking about the next thing that I have to get done. On page 100, one of the quotes was, "People age with too much work and too little sleep step over the baggage claim of life and grab the duffel bag of weariness." And so that's an extra bag that we have to take along with us on our things. So not only do I have all this other baggage, but now I have this bag of weariness to add to everything else. When I first got here, even as I was unloading my stuff, I had a guy stop and say, "Hey, do you need help with something?" And I just smiled and said, "No thanks, I've got it." So sometimes God sends other people into our lives to help us with these burdens that we carry, these worries and these struggles, and we just brush them off and say, "No thanks, I've got it, I don't need your help." Or pride or fear of what others might think, or fear of not being good enough or looking like you can't handle it on your own. But the thing is, we were never meant to handle it on our own. God is there to help us, and we need to let Him be our strength, and we need to realize that He sends people in our lives to help us through these things. I could have traveled to Little Rock for the night with probably only my purse, Bible, and a small bag, and my makeup. But first, mascara. I saw a quote once that said, is it better to look good or to be on time? And that's something that I used to struggle with also, was vanity. And a lot of times when I would be late, it was because I wanted to make sure I appeared to be that picture perfect blah 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 that everybody wanted me to be. But the fact is, that stuff's not important, especially if you've made a commitment to someone to be somewhere. Sometimes you have to put other things on the back burner to keep your word and do what you need to do. But instead, I wanted to drag my entire luggage with me, just in case I needed the kitchen sink. Or a light if we lose power, because what's coming through the windows may not be enough to see my nose. However, somehow I forgot my rain boots and my umbrella, which would have been great to have today. Busy, 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 go, go, go. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Busyness is next to godliness in our book. Who has time to slow down and rest when there is so much that needs to get done? So many unanswered questions. Last week, Katrina talked to us about her father, who was offended by being called a sheep, because sheep are so dumb. But it seems that we have a lot more in common with sheep than what first meets the eye. So not only are sheep dumb. Oh, and by the way, I love the comparison of woolly, simple-minded, slow sheep to our husbands on Saturdays. I think that's a great way that they compare that. But unfortunately, our similarities go beyond that. And us women are also like these sheep. Sheep cannot sleep unless certain conditions are met. Earlier, I talked about the things that I struggle with, and maybe everybody has different things that they struggle with. But for sheep, everything must be just right. No predators, no tension in the flock, no bugs in the air, and no hunger in the belly. Because sheep are so dumb, they cannot create this place of peace on their own. They must be led by the shepherd, as must we. Page 101 is day 2, the burden of weariness, part 2. He makes me, he leads me. Psalm 23:2 is, he makes me to lie down in green pastures, he leads me beside still waters. The Lord is our shepherd, he goes before us to prepare for us a place of rest. We just need to follow him and rest as he watches over us. And something that I read in the book, and it talked about how the land was in that day, and green pastures weren't natural to the area that they were. They had to trust in the Lord to provide that green pasture, to work the ground and create that place of rest. Isaiah 26:3 says, you will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you. Oftentimes we cannot rest because our minds are worried about the busyness of life. We take on more than we can handle and attempt to complete it in our own strength. There's a lot of times that I will take on more than I can handle. And over the past few years, I've been learning to say no to people. But I used to be this yes person. Everyone came to me for everything because they knew I would do it. The problem with that is I wore myself out and I didn't have enough time to get it all done. And the fact is, a good distraction is still a distraction. Even one that appears to be God-given can distract us from what God has called us to do. And the other problem with that is, if you say yes to something that God hasn't called you to do, not only are you taking on that extra burden that you were never meant to bear, but you're taking that opportunity away from the person that God has called for that. So pray about it. If there's something you're not sure about, and you know this isn't a God thing, say, God, Lord, is this from you, or have you called someone else to do this? Is this my job to fill their need, or are you trying to teach them something through this? And just take into consideration, it's not always about you. It's not about saying yes. It's not about doing it all. We can't do it all. It was hard. There was a guy that stopped us on the way in and would talk to us 5 or 10 minutes. And it got very heavy, just standing there holding this luggage. I'm like, yeah. And my husband's looking at me and he's like, come on, are you really not going to let me carry anything? So I had to give him a hard time. And I walked up to Pastor this morning and I was like, Pastor, can you believe he won't even help me carry any of this stuff? Yeah, and he was totally humiliated that I had my arms full of all this stuff and wouldn't help me. But you have to learn to say no. You have to say, I've already committed to do this. I can't do that, but I know God's going to take care of you. And a lot of times people may get ugly at you about it. I know when I first started learning to have boundaries, I read boundaries, when to say yes and when to say no. A lot of my family came at me and they said, if you were a Christian, you would do this for me. If you were a Christian, you would blah, blah, blah. And I spent hours crying over things like that. But the more I grew in my faith and the more I learned that it was okay to say no, that this was their battle, this was something God was dealing with them on, and He would provide for them at the right time, the easier it got for me, and I understood it wasn't about me and them. It was about a spiritual war that was going on. The 10 Commandments. On page 102 and 104, it was a real eye-opener for me, and it stresses the importance of taking the time to rest. You know, God never ceases to amaze me. A few weeks ago, God had started dealing with me on taking time for some R&R. Even just throughout my day, I work and I work and I work, and I may work several hours on writing a script or memorizing lines or getting this person to that place. And sometimes the Lord will remind me, hey, you need to stop, you need to eat something, you need to take a break. And that's not always an easy thing for me. I like to get things done, and I like to be on time, and I want things to go my way. But I'm learning to rely on God's timing and God's way, and knowing that if I don't take that break, it's going to be more difficult to deal with the things later on in my day. We don't think clearly a lot of times when we're tired or hungry or frustrated or have all this baggage. When He was talking to us, all I could think about was all the stuff that I was carrying on my shoulders and that was weighing me down. And so when I initially agreed to take this lesson this week, I had no idea what it was about. But I believe it was a God thing that for the past several weeks, the Lord had been working with me on resting and taking those breaks and not worrying as much leading up to this opportunity. He was preparing me ahead of time for something I didn't even know he had me to do. I was blown away on page 103 when I read the difference in the number of words between some very important commandments and the commandment to rest, or to not work or cause others to work on the Sabbath. Exodus 28-11 says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it." That's just intense when you think about it and think about all the detail that he went into. And he covers that starting in day 3. And I like how they broke it up in between the 2 days. That day you kind of get to really let it sink in. And then on the next day, it's broken down. It says, God knows us so well. He can see the store owner reading this verse and thinking, somebody needs to work that day. You guys ever done that where there's something you can't do? Well, somebody needs to do it. If I can't do it, I'll get so-and-so to do it. Well, God knows us. He says, if I can't, my son will. So God says, nor your son. Then my daughter will, nor your daughter. Then maybe an employee, nor them. I guess I'll have to send my cow to run the store, or maybe I'll find some stranger to help me. No, God says, 1 day of the week you will say no to work and yes to worship. You will slow and sit down and lie down and rest. We cannot justify doing what God has told us not to do. And I am really bad about that again with the things that I struggle with. It's like, but Lord, those dishes need to get washed. But God, I need to mow the grass, and this is the only time I have to do it. But what about shampooing the carpets? And it's real easy to do that. And it's hard sometimes to just shut down and breathe God in and breathe me out and just give it all to Him. But let's take that a step further. When we eat out on Sundays, we cause others to work. I like eating out on Sundays. I like not having to worry about it and just go out. But if we look back at this commandment, then maybe we're getting that rest we need from cooking. But what about that person who's at work serving us the meal? And so we're causing a problem for them. I think that's something the Seventh-day Adventists got right, is that they prepare all their meals for the Sabbath on Friday so that there's not being any work. Somebody's not having to do the work on Saturday. It's already prepared ahead of time. And that's just something that God has placed on my heart. Maybe it's something He's dealt with you about, maybe not. Just an extra thing that I thought about. I'm the world's worst at stressing over something not getting done, even on Sundays. And then when we watch movies, play video games, or on Facebook all day, we're not allowing our minds to rest. Our families grow further apart as we dig into our so-called social lives. Instead of resting in God and enjoying our family, we unconsciously seek ways to stay busy, even if only in a digital world. And another struggle of mine, a couple of years ago, and AJ reminds me a lot of things. He was trying to talk to me, and I was doing something on my phone, and I was holding the conversation, and he's just like, Mom, will you put it down and look at me? And we all like to have eye contact when we're having a conversation with someone. We know they're listening and paying attention. They care about what we have to say. And so that's the same way on Sundays, I think, with God. If we're going to be still and listen and worship to Him, He wants our eyes focused on Him and not on our cell phones or video games or whatever. We need to be focused on God and spending time with our family and encouraging one another instead of being wrapped up in our own little digital world. The definition of rest is to cease work or movement in order to relax, refresh oneself, or recover strength. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of Facebook drama. And it's easy to see something on there and get yourself all worked up and pick up another burden of baggage, especially on that day we're supposed to be resting. Oh, but so-and-so said this about me, and blah, blah, blah. I've got to respond to that, and we get ourselves all worked up. Again, our eyes are focused on this instead of being focused on God and taking the time to rest our minds, rest our bodies, rest our souls, and just worship the Lord. Why do we think rest only applies to our physical bodies? On page 104, we are given a reminder. In 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. God's message is plain. If creation didn't crash when I rested, it won't crash when you do. That's true. If my dishes don't get done that day, it's okay. The world is not going to fall apart. It's not going to end. If I don't have my little light, if the power goes out, we're going to be okay. God always provides. He's always there when we need him. Do you think God spent the seventh day worrying about all he still had to do, or thinking, what if they eat of that tree? What'll I do if Cain kills Abel? How will Noah know when he's found all the animals for the ark? I doubt it. But for some reason, we just cannot let our minds rest in the peace of knowing God has it all under control. Day 4, the burden of worry, part 1. Ridiculous worries. Your 10-year-old is worried, so anxious he can't eat, so worried he can't sleep. What's wrong, you inquire? He shakes his head and moans, I don't even have a pension plan. Or your 4-year-old is crying in bed. What's wrong, sweetheart? She whimpers. I'll never pass college chemistry. Your 8-year-old's face is stress-struck. I'll be a rotten parent. What if I set a poor example for my kids? It may sound silly to us, as we know there is no need for them. Just as God sees our worries as needless, sometimes painful moments we put ourselves through. As previously stated, I struggle with some major anxiety disorders. Worry is not my friend, but for some reason, unbeknown to me, I let it live rent-free in my head. That's right. It doesn't pay a penny, and it steals my peace, my joy, my faith, and my time. How will I? What if I? What if I don't? What if she, or how will I ever? We may not see how, but God does. Past, present, and future, he is there. Philippians 4, 6 through 7. I don't have that written on here. Does someone want to look at Philippians 4, 6 through 7? And can someone else get Matthew 6, 25 through 27?
Philippians 4, what?
Philippians 4, 6 through 7.
You want me to read that now?
Yes.
Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus.
So instead of worrying all the time, do everything in prayer and supplication, and God will guard your hearts and your minds. It's much easier said than done. I know I had some worries this morning, and I'm sure all of you probably had something this morning that crossed your mind that gave you anxiety, or you worried about, or stressed out about, or what if I don't get this done today? Okay, Matthew 6, 25 through 27.
I got it. That is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food or drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't life more than food, and your body more than clothing? Look at the birds. They do not plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you far more valuable to him than they are? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life?
Can any worry add a single moment to your life? It can take away moments from your life. As we read earlier, worry kills people. Stress kills people. So even though it can't add a moment, we do it anyway, and it can steal our lives from us. And as you just read there, we don't have to worry about anything. God provides. I don't need to take all this stuff with me. If I end up needing something, God's going to provide it in that moment. I don't need all the extra baggage. So why not worry? Hebrews 4:16. Yes. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. God will show up on time, every time. There's a lot of things I want to get done in my own time, and I fail. I know there was a situation where I was wanting these two people to meet, and I did everything in my power trying to get these two people to meet, and it never worked out. And one day I had taken a group to the Mid-America Science Museum, and this other person just happened to be there. And I was like, okay, God, I get it. You don't need my help. and that's it. And it's, so in my mind, this whole time, I'm trying to figure this all out on my own. My God had already figured it out, and he had the perfect time and the perfect place, and he knew exactly how he was going to put things together. Sometimes when we're running late for things, maybe he's allowing us to miss a car accident, or bad weather, or something else. I know, or a divine appointment. There's been times I've been running late, and I'll be so stressed out. I'll get to the grocery store, and I'll run into someone that just needs an encouraging word, or has a prayer need, or something. Had I not been running late, I would have never ran into that person. And so we have to learn not to get stressed out, even in the middle of our mess, because God has a plan.
I'm a witness to that.
Yep.
I was stressing, and who comes along? Frankie.
And I was just gonna jump up and go to the grocery store that day, and I thought, nah, I'll just run the curling iron through my veins real quick, and I'm standing there waiting for it to heat up, and I'm like, I'm just going to Walmart, neighborhood market. It doesn't even matter. I have no makeup, old scroungies, because I work at home. I was like, no, I'm gonna do this. So I did. Had I not, I wouldn't have seen Patty, and I wouldn't have realized Patty's car had been wrecked, and Patty had no transportation at that time, and Patty wanted to be back at church, and she didn't have my number, and it just was crazy. Had I not taken that time, we wouldn't have seen each other.
And that's
But I
it.
didn't stress. I just kept thinking, why?
Like, come on, God, really? Right now? I wish this car would get out of my way. Does he not know how to drive?
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to put that. Guilty.
You know what?
You're
that
lucky I don't have
opportunity-
insurance. Out of my way.
Right.
That opportunity shows me there's times when I don't see God's answer that quickly, because I'm talking like 8 minutes later, I see
Yeah.
Patty. When I don't see the answer yet, that shows me that God's still faithful.
And I was stressing, how am I gonna get back into church? The bus
Yeah.
won't come back by, I didn't have no phone.
I mean, we were missing her like 3 or 4 times
Yeah.
a week. We've been doing stuff with Patty.
Yeah.
It was
So,
a divine appointment that
Yeah.
God preordained. And then when you look back and see everything
yeah.
that had to fall into place for that moment to happen, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see what God can do. For me, one of my big fears and worries that the past couple of years I've been dealing with is the fear of public speaking.
Mhm.
I used to be so afraid of talking in front of a group of people. My first semester in college, I took public speaking, and I dropped the day before my first speech because I thought I was going to die. It was awful, and I had to learn to give it to God, and He even covered public speaking in the Bible. Mark 13:11. It says, "But when they arrest you and deliver you up, do not worry beforehand or premeditate what you will speak, but whatever is given you in that hour, speak that. For it is not you who speak, but the Holy Spirit." So God even shows up then through our public speaking, through all of that. I had to learn, a friend of mine actually, Louise Allison, she mentioned to me, you have to breathe God in, breathe me out. Breathe God in, breathe me out. And so when I first started speaking in front of people, every time, and even I did it this morning, it's just breathe God in, breathe me out, and realize that even though whatever I have planned, God's going to let the Holy Spirit guide me, and I just have to be willing and obedient to the word that he gives me. And if that means changing up what I have, then I change it up. If it means going with it, great. If it means tossing it out the window and speaking something completely different, that's okay too. He's just looking for a willing and obedient spirit for God to use. We'll end with a few passages from 108. Okay, it says, maybe, if I can find it. Okay, the key is this. Meet today's problems with today's strength. Don't start tackling tomorrow's problems until tomorrow. You do not have tomorrow's strength yet. You simply have enough for today. You can't control tomorrow. We don't know what it's going to hold. We don't know what's going to happen today that changes tomorrow. And if you try to plan ahead, chances are it might fall apart if that's not what God has called you to do.
Amber, one of the things that in our while we're waiting retreats, we talk about to the parents is, Ezekiel was running from, Bathsheba? No, Jezebel. And he ran out into the desert and he's like, God, just take me home because I can't take this anymore. And so he laid down and slept, and an angel came to him. And when he woke up, there was a hot cake there, and there was water, and he slept, and he ate, and he slept, and he ate, because the Lord was providing for him. And when he got up, he was able to do greater, just because he was willing to rest and sleep and drink in the Lord.
I said willingness and obedience and trusting that the Lord will provide. And he always does. And being thankful for what he does provide. I know sometimes it's easy to complain about what we do or don't have. But the fact is, it could be a whole lot worse, and we could have a whole lot less. And so we need to be thankful for what we do have. Matthew 6:34 says, so don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will have its own worries. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I know it's easier said than done, but we can choose to not let worry live rent-free in our heads with all those ugly, heavy, scratchy sacks. That's it.
Good job.
Very good.